Hi, everybody. Welcome to Buzzing About Romance, a quick shot of romance. On this episode of A Quick Shot of Romance, I am joined by Amanda. Hi, Amanda.
Hello.
And we are recording Playing, and we are talking Playing with Lies by Riley Edwards. This is book one of her brand new Hollow Point series. It is an interconnected standalone from her Next Gen and her Triple Canopy and the 707, but you don't have to read all of the books. They are standalones, just the characters are interconnected, but each story has its own issue, each story has its own couple.
Yes.
So the tropes are protector, law enforcement of the male main character. There is a girl gang, found family. It is a smaller town, but the small town isn't really emphasized. It's just, it isn't a small town, but it isn't like part of the storyline itself.
Correct.
It's told in dual first person point of view. The put out percentage is 11%, and third act breakup. Technically speaking, there isn't one because they're not really in a relationship, but there is, but there isn't. And it's more of a dark moment than a it's one of the, because in romantic suspense, I've said it before and I'll say it again, typically romantic suspense doesn't have an actual third act breakup. That typically is like the dark moment is from an outside source
Yes.
that causes that dark moment. And this was released December 26th in 2023. It is available on Kindle Unlimited. It doesn't have an audiobook as of yet, but it will be coming eventually.
Yes.
Um, so let's talk Dalton and Vanessa.
Okay. This ended up being, we did our end of the year roundup and our three favorite books, and we recorded it. And then this book came out a couple of weeks later, and I was like, okay, I've had to change my favorite books for the end of the year.
Isn't that the worst
This,
when it happens? I mean, not that it's the worst that it happens, but it's like all of a sudden you're like, I'm gonna do this. And then it's like,
yeah,
hello.
she was like, hold on, 5 days. She put up a 5 day pre-order
Mm-hmm.
and this came out on the 26th. And I was like, Merry Christmas to me.
Exactly.
Um, it was so good. I didn't,
Well, and it's one of those things we all knew it was coming because she had
yeah,
released the cover like ages ago, but like nobody knew what was going on.
yeah. So, I mean, which I also appreciate because I don't think she was kind of waiting to see where the story would take her. So she didn't want to promise anything until it was ready. And I'm okay with that. I would rather just kind of get a surprise than
Hmm.
get a
Honestly,
pushback.
exactly. I would rather like I like so Anna Hackett is one of those authors who she
She does the
doesn't
same.
set the pre-order until the book is like out of edits or like almost ready to be like released. And so like it's coming, you just don't know
Hmm.
when it's coming. Like you have like a tentative like idea of when she's releasing a book, but honestly, I'd rather an author hold off on like an announcement and give it to us like live than like pushing things back over and over again. But anyway,
Yes.
that's
Sorry.
just no, that's fine. That's just a personal like
I
little side
digress.
note. We
Yeah.
digress. I mean, tangent, yes, please.
Yeah.
But so Playing with Lies, it is the season opener, but we have met Vanessa before, we have met Dalton before. They have showed up in previous books in the Triple Canopy season series. So Vanessa is Ren's assistant, and Ren is from the book
Shattered.
Shattered.
Shattered. I think, is it shattered? Yeah, I think it's
Yeah, because
shattered.
Fractured is Echo's book.
Echo.
I think we had this conversation
I
already,
think,
but yeah, so Vanessa is the assistant of Ren, who is that book's heroine, but she has seen Dalton like in town, like randomly, like constantly too. And he's the hottie. Like she doesn't know his name, doesn't know the connection. And then finally she finds out that he is Phoenix Kent, who is the hero of Shattered,
yes.
um, his partner and one of his best friends.
Yes. So they have multiple connections in addition to kind of running into each other all over town.
Hmm. Yeah, and so they meet, like Dalton is attracted. We know Vanessa is attracted, but Dalton is very closed off.
Yes, he does not do relationships and he's very upfront about it.
Hmm. Yes, he is. And so they finally give in to temptation, and it is electric and it is delightful.
And it is very early in the book. Yes.
hence the 11%.
Yes.
But things do not progress in a way that Dalton is expecting.
No, because Vanessa says, she wants a relationship and he says he doesn't do relationships. So they kind of agree that this will be the one
One.
night
Yep.
and he cannot stay away from her. So,
He can't because I mean, dummy, like you've
yeah,
like been avoiding this situation for a while because like But Vanessa also like she goes into it understanding like she's gonna get her heart broken. Like she knows that she's gonna get attached because she's already attached.
yeah,
But as she learns more about his history and his past and why he is the way he is, like she understands, but she also is frustrated with it.
yeah, she is because he's not acting like he wants to leave her alone.
Exactly.
And then I think and the other important part is the reason they get together is because she thinks someone is following her.
Hmm.
So she kind of goes to him for help. And then, he takes her home and stays with her. And then that's kind of when
And then things
everything
progress.
come out. Yeah. And,
And she is
I
being followed,
she is, but it's
but
not
it is not what you
what you think.
expect, which that is one thing that Riley Edwards does differently with this book is the fact that there's a secondary storyline which we're not going to get into because it is
No.
a huge part of the story and it's very emotional and very well done and I applaud her the way that she wrote this book. But so
Yes.
this secondary storyline, like this stalker who's not actually a stalker, um, it just it's different in the sense where like the mystery surrounding the story does not it pertains to the main character, but it is not directly the main character story. And I thought that was a really interesting take on the way that she wrote this book.
Yeah. It was woven so well into it though. Um, because it does directly affect Vanessa to begin with
Mm-hmm.
because of the person following her. And
Yep.
then it just kind of unfolds and you get this whole separate backstory into her family. And
Mm-hmm.
it was so compelling. I was just like, I just needed to know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it brings in like a whole new set of characters because we still have, we have a lot of Triple Canopy 707, like
Mm-hmm.
next gen characters that show up in this book.
Yeah.
But then you get a whole separate set, which
Mm-hmm.
I think something's going to happen with one of those characters maybe eventually down the line. So, I mean, it's
Maybe.
like she just keeps hooking me in.
I know. Well, and that's the thing, like and she names people.
Yes, she
And
does.
and we all know, according to Susan Stoker, if you're going to name a character, you got to write a book. Like,
Yep.
don't name a character if you're not willing to give them a book, people. But so, like, we already know like who the Hollow Point heroes are, and if you follow Riley on Facebook, then you would know. And Amanda guessed them ages and ages ago, because she's a little bit
And
psycho.
rolled
Like,
and rolled up into her DMs and made her tell me. Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
this is also true, but a little bit psycho in her stalking of her author friends
I
there.
am.
It's okay. It's all on the up and up because they know. Um, but we've met all of the characters that are part of this series, and I think that's something too. But there's a connection, but it's not like they're all in the same job or the same company or the same position this time. Like
Yeah, they're all in different situations and they kind
yeah.
of loosely connect to previous characters.
Yeah, so like we've met all of them. Like book two is a character who we met way back in Shiloh's book because he's on the SWAT team with Shiloh. But it's
Yes.
one of those things where she is taking us in a little bit different direction with the style in which she's creating the series and creating these books. And I think it's really like refreshing that like she has her formula of the way in which she writes, but the way that she's creating these stories is very different than what she had previously.
Yes, I agree. And it's like you said, it's a very refreshing take on it. And it was definitely why I read that book and I was like, oh my God, this is like my favorite book, like
Mhm.
of this year. Definitely one of my top reads. So I can't wait to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, I'm really excited for what's coming next in this story. But Dalton's story, it's not, it's one of those ones where like you can understand his hangups. You can understand his self-doubt. You can understand his guilt. But at the same time, like he has all of these people around him saying, like, you are not at fault for this happening. And it's one of those things, again, we want to be kind of vague because it's you need to read it to understand it. But he has friends like Phoenix and Echo and like the Kents and all of those people surrounding him who were like, you were an idiot for making the
Yep.
decisions you're making, and you are going to regret if you do not move forward with this. And I think that's one thing too, is like you have these characters who are not afraid to throw out hard truths.
Yeah, I mean, and Phoenix gives him the tough love a couple
Hmm.
of times. So,
Yeah,
and those were really important scenes.
they are. And once he decides he's in, he's all in. But there's a moment like towards the end of the book in which his ex-wife, which like we all know that he has an ex at the beginning of the book, but we don't like you learn as to why later. But there's a moment where his ex-wife shows up and Vanessa stands up for him and like puts herself in front of him and fights for him, not against him. And that was a really like defining moment for him where it's like I needed, I should have trusted the fact that she was able and willing to do this for me.
Yeah. And, I think Riley does a really good job with those types of scenes where, you get a hero who is very protective and helps, the heroine out or whatever. But in a lot of her books, and one of the reasons they're my favorite is that you get the same in return from the heroine.
Hmm.
Like in a good majority of her books, like the heroine is just as protective, just as swoony. I mean,
Hmm.
I can, you know, like I'll go through and like these are book boyfriend, girl crush, like
Oh
all the
yeah.
time.
Hmm. That's the thing is she writes, I mean, they have stupid moments,
Hmm.
but she writes a strong heroine who is not afraid to stand up for who she loves and what she believes. And I think that's the biggest thing with these books is the heroes and the heroines, they are they're strong apart, but together they're even stronger.
Yeah, it's like always like that perfect match, like for personality and then also I think it leads to really great dialogue too, which is another thing that is my
Hmm.
favorite in her books. Like you get such great dialogue, you get such good banter.
Hmm.
So
I will say this book didn't monologue the way that she sometimes does.
it didn't, but I think it was probably because I think the whole side story kind of
Hmm.
leaned away from that a little bit, but you had enough other stuff going on that you're still
Uh-huh.
getting all of those big feels.
There are a lot of big feels in this book, and like I said, that side story, it's unexpected, but it is not unwelcome in the way the story plays out. And it's about healing and growth and hurts and decisions that are made that can, when you're younger, that can really affect your entire being. And I
And your
think
entire
that,
family.
and I think that is such a great aspect to this story.
Yeah, I agree. It was, like I said, it was one of my favorites last year. So,
Yeah, it was definitely one of like a top read for me, but Riley is often a top read for me as well. But
so
anyway, if you have a book you think we should review, let us know and send us an email at thebees@bookcaseandcoffee.com. Thank you, Amanda, for joining me of this quick shot of romance.
thanks for having me.
And until next time, happy reading, everybody.
Find us on Instagram at Buzzing About Romance or on Twitter at Buzzing Romance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.